Dude, I'm telling you, this one's a banger. It's gonna make them wealthier, it's gonna cut out stress, they're gonna work less, it's gonna be awesome. I'm telling you this. Sweet. What's up everybody? Tim Conley here. I'm gonna share with you how to build an IPA. Not that kind. An instantly profitable agency. Does this only work for agencies? What about freelancers? Yes, it works for them. Well, how about consultants? Yes, it works for everyone who uses their expert skills to earn a living. Dude, that guy. The first thing we have to have for our IPA is a minimum engagement level. We should set a floor. Anyone who will not pay that much or more cannot be a client. And this is incredibly scary. I understand it. I know just the feeling of it because I keep raising my minimum engagement level. You have to. Inflation will eat away your profits if you don't keep raising your minimum engagement level. I recommend a minimum of $25,000 per client per year. So that's not necessarily a recurring revenue, but within a 12-month calendar year that you acquire $25,000 for really any kind of custom service. And the reality of that $25,000 is it's not enough. It really should be significantly higher than that. Some kinds of projects you can be very profitable on if you're charging $10,000 and you're able to accomplish it in a week or in 2 weeks maybe. Such as a website. Other more complex services like Facebook advertising, well, $25,000 probably is like the setup for it. Setting up the initial campaign and everything. That wouldn't even include all the maintenance, but start with any minimum engagement level. If you've been taking a $10,000 project here, a $3,000 project there, maybe even a $500 project, decide that you're not going to go below a certain level. Maybe it's that $3,000 that you took on a recent project, and anything below that you'll not touch. Start there. After we've solidified our engagement level, that takes us to a high revenue per employee. This is something you should design in your business right from the beginning. How much money are you going to earn for every employee you have? And when you're first starting out and you're just a freelancer, that's you. One person, one employee. What you need to do is set a target, a minimum target of $150,000. For some of the people watching this, it may sound like a lot, but $150,000 per employee is not a lot of money in a services business, especially an expert services business. You really should be earning somewhere around $250,000 to $350,000 per employee inside of your agency. And that includes freelancers. So before you ever hire somebody, you should hit at least $250,000, or at least design your business in such a way that every client contributes to that $250,000 in revenue per employee. That way you're able to hire and scale. I'm working with a client right now that is struggling to grow. They are getting clients and they're working really hard, but their staff just keeps exploding. And I did some math and looked at their revenue per employee, and it came out to $34,000 per employee. Maybe you think that's a lot. It is not. It is incredible they're still in business. Like I said, revenue per employee needs to be at least $150,000 just for you to have a marginal business. Right now, I'm working with that client to be able to raise that $34,000 to at least the $150,000, but we're not going to get there overnight. So the first target is $50,000 per employee. So how are we going to get there? Well, probably cut staff that is just inefficient. They're not doing enough work on projects to be worth keeping on staff. And if you've got an agency, you probably know that there's some people that shouldn't be there. They're just not performing at the level they should be. And you may find that the people that are remaining are easily able to take on the workload because those other people weren't doing enough to begin with. Now for number 3. So you might actually be charging hourly. I hope you're not. But internally, you need to have an hourly rate to determine how profitable you are when you know your revenue per employee. Just because you have a high revenue per employee doesn't mean you're going to be profitable. You may have those employees working way too many hours for the work that they're doing, and you're just not capable of scaling. For you to be able to continue to grow, that internal hourly rate from zero up to maybe $400 or $500 per hour. When you add all those rates together, that gives you a blended rate for you to analyze just how well you're doing with each of your projects. If your internal blended rate is $150 per hour or below, then you're going to have financial stress in your business. Now back to that client I mentioned. We were working on their internal blended rate. He thinks it's his hourly rate, his actual external blended rate, which is $60 per hour. That's incredibly low. There's no way to run a successful agency at $60 an hour. You might be able to get away with that, if you're just a freelancer and you're like, yeah, $60 an hour. If I could work 40 hours a week at $60 an hour, I'm gonna do okay. But that's where it stops. You will work really hard all the time to make that income. If you want to grow and have other people helping you out, well then you've got to find people who can work for far less than that $60 per hour, probably $20 an hour or under. You're not gonna find great experts for under $20 an hour. Even if you're looking all around the world, it's going to be very difficult to do. Part of my client process is to make sure that all the higher level people are getting billed to his clients. He's charging $60 an hour for his basic staff, and that basic staff is covering everyone in the company, from the executives who are running it all the way down to the admin staff who have zero billable hours. What we found is senior management and senior staff are not being billed at a higher rate for the level of compensation that they receive. So everything's getting billed at the $60 an hour when there should be projects that are being billed at $400, $500 an hour, others that are being billed at $150 per hour at the minimum to be able to cover all the staffing costs necessary to fulfill the obligations and promises that they've given to their clients. When my client takes 500, 400, 250, and 150 and puts those together, they get an internal blended rate to be able to analyze their business to make sure it's staying healthy and that they're making enough money on every single client. After you figured out your internal blended rate, that takes us to number 4, which is a high gross margin. Every one of your clients, every one of the projects for each of those clients has to have a high margin. After your cost of goods sold, you should have a lot of money left over to run your business. And if you're a freelancer, well, you're executive, you're the doer, you're the technician, and you're the admin. You're all the things. You still have to cover all that with every one of your projects. If you decide I want to hire somebody, you have the revenue necessary to cover the costs of an employee. I'm going to give you the non-accounting Tim Conley way of dealing with margin. What I care about in margin is that when I subtract out all the costs of doing business, not just the cost of goods sold or cost of labor sold that an accountant does and gives you gross margin, I like to cover everything. I like to cover the cost of my employees, the people who are going to work on those projects internally. I like to cover all the admin costs, all the executive costs covered by that project. I want to cover all of my operating expenses. And then after I know those are completely covered, I have 25 to 30% profit. When you're building your proposal for a client, and let's just say it's at your minimum engagement level and you picked $25,000. Right at the top, we do 25 to 30% for profit. We just make a line item. So we're going to subtract that out of that $25,000 just right up front. Then we go into our cost of goods sold. We're going to remove that amount if we've got contractors that are going to work on this. If we are paying for any media or printing costs or anything like that for the client, that comes out. And this gives us our, well, Tim Conley gross margin. This is the amount of money we're going to use to grow the business. We're going to have to cover your salary. That's our next line item, making sure that happens. And profit is not your salary. Then you need to make sure all your senior people are covered. And then your technicians, and then your junior level and admin all get covered. You know for a fact as you look down at your costs by using your blended rate and how many hours you think this project will take, you will know whether or not you're charging enough for this project. After you've made sure all of your labor is covered, then we look at overhead. Thus like software, office space, buying computers, and then you add all those numbers together. And that number should be less than your minimum engagement level. So let's say even with your percentage of profit and all that stuff added in, you come out to say $20,000 in costs, and then you have your minimum engagement level of 25. Well, that other $5,000 isn't necessarily going to become profit, because if any problem occurs, it comes out of that extra amount. The fifth and final thing you need to have a financially healthy agency is to pay yourself first. There's an old book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Highly recommend that you read this. It talks about the concept of paying yourself first. Every bit of money that ever comes into your life, you pull a chunk of it out so that it doesn't get spent on all the things that we humans are happy to spend our money on. Before we ever get a chance to spend it, we pull profit right out of the project, so it cannot get used up in the course of doing the work for the client. You want to set aside 25 to 30% for profit. It's unlikely that at the end of the year you'll be sitting at 30% profit. There'll be things that you truly do need to reinvest into your business, and so you'll take some of that money and reinvest it. Or you'll need a rainy day fund. You'll need money set aside to be able to cover slow times. A pandemic hits the world or something, and you've got to keep paying your bills. You have to have money set aside for all those things. So at the end of the year, you might end up with a 20 to 25% net profit. A lot of larger agencies are sitting at around 15% in net profit. Going below that, as Crabtree says in the book Simple Numbers, where he talks about 10% net profit at the end of the year should be considered break even because of all the hazards a business faces. So all the healthy agencies that I've worked with or helped build are at 25% net profit at the end of the year. They have 25% of all the revenue that they made that year gets distributed back to the owners. And if they do profit sharing, some of that 25% goes to the people who helped generate that revenue. If you want a business that does not require you to pour your entire life into it for a pittance, for very little money, then you need to do these 5 things. You need to implement them as soon as you possibly can. I hope you've gotten a lot of value from this. Oh, I got this, Buttercup. Hey, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get more videos that are gonna make you wealthier, happier, stress-free, and, well, maybe even better looking. And we hope to see you in the next video. Oh, before you go, as always, check out one of these videos. They're great. They will help you grow your business. And I'll see you next week. Done.